Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome to how to strengthen your inner guide, also known as empower your inner, or all the different ways that I have been talking about this wonderful life training. It's me, Dina Balicki. I'm a transformational coach. I live out in the gorgeous Joshua Tree area of California, Mojave Desert. Let's take a look, shall we? What do we got out there today? Yeah. We got cactus, we got Joshua trees. It's a beautiful day in the desert. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick little tech check here for anyone who is already tuned in. We're just taking a sec here to update the little chat box, which I just checked in and it had gotten a little, just a little notice that the chat needs to be updated. So my wonderful assistant Susanna is doing that. And so in a moment, I'm going to prompt you to refresh your page, and that will pop up. And so then you can, you can go ahead and, ask questions throughout our time together today. So, good. So just a quick, before we start and before we dive into our time together today, I want to just give you a little bit of an overview about what we're going to be doing here. So, and who I am and why we're coming together for this for this training, for this time, for this like sort of as deep as we can go in the hour or so that we have together. I believe that in my work as a transformational coach that I've been doing for years, and I've worked with hundreds of people, what I have noticed like rise to the surface sort of like throughout all the different modalities and frameworks that I use, some of which I'll share with you today, about how to live a more empowered, courageous, vulnerable, authentic, purposeful life of meaning and self-love and trust and impact, that I've really noticed our ability to trust ourselves comes up a lot, right? And so when I say that, what I mean is that our programming that we get culturally, right? And then from like those major meaning makers known as our parents and our family, but like culture and family. And then of course, like anything we're holding epigenetically, right? And like karmically and like undone traumas, transferred through us, like from our ancestors, like all of that, right? Is like living in our body. And we are going to use the like sort of practical magic technology of mindset, of inner work, right, to sort of do some reset around that, so that you can look at the places where you may be getting in your own way from having the life you want, from living having the experience that you want to have in this life right now, and to get more aligned with the truth of who you really are, and to trust that you can do that, right? To like trust yourself to create, to want what you want, to create the life you really want. So that's why we're here. It's big picture stuff, right? But I'm gonna like break it down into some more bite-sized pieces here, so that you can really start to understand the places where you may be getting stuck and where you may be like getting in your own way, or feeling that stuck energy, and how to loosen some of it up. Okay. And then I'll give you some opportunities to ask questions, throughout the time together. And then I'm going to share a little special offer with you at the end, about how to do some like deeper work with me, in anything that has come up for you, or anything that you feel like you're already working on in your own life. All right. So I'm going to prompt you right now just to go ahead and refresh. Anyone watching live, if you're watching this later, you don't have to refresh. If you're watching live right now, go ahead and refresh, and we'll get our chat, the chat box up and ready here. Okay, great. So thanks, Susanna, for getting that up. Okay, great. So let's just like take a moment here and like, let's all take a couple of deep breaths together. Right, so we're going to take a couple of deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Right, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Good. In through the nose, down into the belly. Make it nice and slow and deep. And exhaling. Good. One more time. Inhaling. And exhaling. Beautiful. So, and just in the to honor, what is known as, sort of trauma-informed work, right? One of the things which I think is a way that we really need to move forward. So I'm just looking through my notes, just finding my little notes here, real quick, because I accidentally shut my journal. Here we go. So, to honor sort of a way of moving forward to be more trauma-informed in our culture, I just want to be transparent about what we're going to do. So I'm going to walk us through just a little what I call the inner guidance flow. So it's a way, like I said, to help you see if you've been like getting stuck, keep getting in your own way, in terms of like how you relate to yourself and the information that you receive. This is one way of looking at it, right? There are a lot of different ways, but here's one that might really help you. And if you're here today, or whenever you're watching this, let's trust that like maybe you've been brought to this message for a reason. Okay. And so, what we're doing now with this is, we'll walk through it, and I want you to have, if you have a journal, pen, pencil, colored pencils, glitter pens, whatever you choose, to go ahead and have that ready, because we're going to do a little prompting, and you're going to maybe want to take some notes. Okay. And then I'm gonna, do a couple more like journaling prompts to help you sort of unpack your relationship to your own desire and your own needs and your own wants. All right. And then we'll do a little grounding together. If you're familiar with that, great. If not, then you're gonna get something really juicy. So let's take another moment with your eyes closed, or they don't have to be closed if it feels more comfortable for you to just have sort of a soft gaze. That's totally okay. Wherever, because you may be somewhere and closing your eyes maybe not feel like the safest thing, or, whatever is for you is for you. Okay. So if your eyes just need to be slightly open, or you want to just fix your gaze on something in your space that just helps you sort of tune in, perfect. I'm going to ask a series of questions, and then I'm going to pull up a couple of slides. Okay. So take another nice deep breath. Feel where the breath moves into your body, and let it out. Good, let's do one more. Slowing down the body, slowing down the mind. Right, it's Friday, maybe you're already feeling slow, maybe you're feeling itchy to, get to the next thing or whatever, whenever you're watching this. Right? Whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world, whatever's going on for you, right? Just like take a deep breath as you're breathing, slowing down the mind, slowing down the body, right? It's when we move slower that we make room for clarity. So I want you to notice if you feel like you struggle with inner guidance. Just notice if you feel like you struggle with your inner guidance, right? With being able to connect with and receive messages and information from your inner guide. Or if you're like, oh, I don't even know what my inner guide is, or who or what that is. You just notice if that feels like something where it feels a little sticky for you. You can feel free to put any of it in the chat as you're here and as you're noticing it. But when we come back up and out, but for now, just notice it in your body. Do you struggle with clarity? you feel like you struggle with clarity or self-trust or even self-love. Any of those. You struggle with clarity. You find it difficult or sticky or a little murky to just feel clear about what you want and where you want to go and how you want to get there. It's okay. Do you feel like you have any like differing voices pulling you, like voices pulling you in sort of attention in different directions? Or do you find yourself in the same pattern, stuck in the same pattern over and over? Even if you like sort of see it coming down the pike and you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing here, and you still find yourself caught. Do you ask for guidance from others, from the universe, and get a response, get some sort of answer, and then feel like, ugh, I don't know, that seems like a lot. I'm hoping for an easier answer. You ask again. So just sort of notice like how that feels inside of you. You're being honest with yourself. Whatever's coming up for you, just let it be there. You don't need to fight it. Okay. So you can open your eyes gently. And you can just take a little note for anything that may have come up for you, right? About, what you noticed, what you felt. Any answers to any of those questions about your relationship to clarity, or your relationship to your own inner guidance. If you feel like a little struggly, or if you feel tension, or if you feel like you're constantly sort of swinging between like two pendulums or two voices that are like sort of arguing back and forth inside of you. Yeah. Okay. Take a moment here. And I am going to share a slide in a second here to help you sort of get clear on what on how, like get some perspective on this, right? On why this is. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If I can get the little guy to pop up. There you go. And great. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to keep it like this, even though it's a little funky here, because what I've noticed is that when if I open up the slides all the way, they won't share on the live. So we're going to have to just keep it here, and hopefully this works for you. So, and feel free, anyone, to let me know if they cannot see the slides. As far as I know, it looks like on my end that they are actually showing up, which is great. Slide. Yep, good. Okay, so let me get back to my slide window here. So the inner guidance flow, right? This is what I really like. This is some work that I've really been digging into for many years now, and I'm going to get to the first step down here. The sort of bottom left here, you can see the word ask has popped up. And I want you to know, though, that this work around like connecting to your own inner guide, some of my amazing mentors and teachers, David Gershon, Gail Straub, Bragatis, many other amazing humans that I've had the blessing and privilege to work with. This work comes from, I'm standing on the shoulders of many a mentor, right? So the inner guidance flow. The first step that I really think about here is ask, right? And so the idea here is that like we are always asking, right? So this next slide, your thoughts are requests to the universe for attention. So this idea that we're always asking, sometimes we're asking, sometimes we're asking in a really specific way. We're asking the universe for guidance, or we're asking, we're asking a friend or a mentor or a teacher, and we're really looking at a specific way of asking, right? And like where we know, like, I am asking for guidance, I am asking for help. And then there's the ways that we ask all the time when we're just, it's like some of our thoughts, right? Especially our thoughts, not just like the random thoughts, like, oh, I wish I had $1 million, or whatever the thought is. Oh, I wish this person over here would just get the hell out of here. Or I don't know, right? Any random thoughts. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the thoughts that are repeated thought patterns, right? So like, especially like the thoughts that you think over and over, every thought, we have 90% of our thoughts are repeats from the day before. You may have heard me say this before. And we have something like, I've heard a few different numbers, but like 60,000 thoughts a day. A big chunk of those are about food, interestingly enough. We have thoughts that are on repeats. Energy follows thought. Everything in the universe is energy. Our thoughts you can imagine them like wavelengths, right? And that like, if you repeat the same thought over and over, that wavelength will eventually become like a rhythm, right? A vibration, right? A repeated vibration, almost like a groove in a record that's just playing over and over and over and over again. So those are the thoughts that we want to be most attentive to, right? We want to be most attentive to the thoughts that are repeats, that have been like repeating for decades, and that are actually beliefs, right? And because those beliefs are the requests to the universe for attention, right? So, that's why when I work with folks and I work in the realm of mindset, which I'm not going to go all the way into mindset today. That's definitely for another training, another time, is that we really like our beliefs are what guide our thoughts, emotions, and actions, right? And so the belief root, right, our belief work is where we can really make the most difference in our lives. And, instead of trying to change just like a thought here and there, or a behavior here and there, or pushing down or pushing away a feeling, when we really go to the root, when we look at the beliefs, that's like really when we get to understand what we're asking the universe for, right? So this unconscious asking, right? So that's why we were here with ask, is because we're always asking. All right. The second part of the inner guidance flow is listen, right? So like how we receive the information, and how we really like take it in, and how we how we really process whatever we receive when we ask. So listening is like, sometimes we're asking for support, and then we're listening for an answer, and we get an answer. And I preface this a little bit in earlier today already, just a few minutes ago, when I was asking you about like, do you feel like you ever get asked for guidance from others, and then you sort of get an answer and you're like, oh, no thanks, right? Like that seems really hard. And that could be from someone else. That could be from the universe. You just get a hit and you're like, whoa, here's what I know I really need to do, right? Like, I want this big change in my life. I'm asking for I'm asking for clarity. Oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Oh my goodness, right? Oh my goddess, or whatever you talk to. And then you get some clarity, like, well, I got to make a big change. And you're like, whoa, God, that feels like a lot. I'm just not sure I'm ready to do that. I'm not sure I have the capacity to do it. And sometimes we're burnt out, and it's hard to imagine making big changes, right? And so for me, I would suggest like paying attention and to the burnout, and tending to yourself, so that you can actually rebuild up your capacity to make that big change. So most of us get stuck here in this ask, listen cycle, right? So we like ask, we listen, and we go, oh, I don't know. And then we ask again.
And because we're like hoping for an answer that feels a little better, a little less scary, or a little less intense on some level, right? And so most of us stay in this swirl for a really long time. And it's understandable. And I think it gets culturally reinforced all the time, right? Where it's like, because there's such an emphasis on changing behaviors, and we try to change a behavior we try to change an external in order to change an internal situation. And then we end up, feeling confused and not sure, what to do. And we slowly degrade our self-trust over time because, we stop learning how to be like our deprogramming ourselves from trusting ourselves. Does that make sense? Right? Anyone has any questions here so far, please feel free to put them in the chat. So here's the trick, or it's not a trick. Here's the here's the truth. If we want to move from out of that ask, listen loop, out of that culturally reinforced swirl of asking, listening, asking again, listening, getting another answer, maybe getting the same answer, having feelings about it, and then going back, hoping for something different, easier, less intense. If we want to break that cycle, we have to trust. Now I know. So it might seem like a big leap. I mean, really, if I could do this, if I was remaking these slides, which I could do at any time, I would maybe put like trust sort of like up over in the corner, because I think sometimes it feels like a big leap for lots of us, because we don't, again, we get the programming to not trust ourselves, right? And we get that because there's a big emphasis in our culture on behavioral change, on external change to make our internals feel different, right? Who here has changed an external in order to feel something different internally? I know I have. And it's not to say that an external change isn't going to like create space for some overall change, right? Isn't going to like shake things up or, create a level of like refresh or renewal that will be really important for you. Sometimes though, it's like we rely on that external change too heavily. And that external change, like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and that's how I'm going to start to like feel better in my life, right? It's like, well, yeah, that's going to start it. That might like kickstart something for you. But because you're growing and stretching and changing by going to the gym or going to yoga and like, sort of like really like committing to yourself, that's really what you're doing. Like, yeah, you're moving your body and there's all these different things about your adrenals and your blood flow and the oxygenation in your blood and the muscles and the blah, 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 and the endocrine system and your nervous system and all of that that's happening in your body, your wise body. Those can all be true, right? Just roll with me here in my example. But what you're also doing is you're starting to relate to yourself in a different way. You're changing the rules of the game a little bit with yourself. And that's going to cause some of that means you're growing and stretching, right? You're not just growing and stretching by stretching your muscles or going to the gym. You're actually committing to yourself in a different way. And that's a growth moment, right? That's a stretch moment. And that is going to, whenever we grow and stretch, all our old records are going to come up, right? The self-doubt, the feelings of worthiness, the lack of safety, whatever our limiting beliefs are. And our unconscious limiting beliefs, right? Not what we want to believe, but what we actually believe about ourselves, which sometimes are really ugly things. And a lot of times, like I said, we get those from our parents and our family, not necessarily because they were, trying to hurt us intentionally, but because they have undealt with stuff and they have their own programming and they passed it right down to us without really knowing, okay? So we make this leap from listen to trust. And what that means is that when you get an answer, you've asked for support, maybe from the universe, maybe just from yourself, right? You don't even know who you're talking to and you're just like, oh my God, I just need clarity, right? You've prayed maybe, in a way that feels prayerful and intentional to you, or you've just been sort of, like help, right? And that however you do, however you ask, however you listen, however you receive that information, right? You get a hit and then you go back into that cycle. When you get that hit, noticing, right? Here's the practice that you can start to cultivate, is noticing that you're getting a hit, and instead of rejecting it, just like sitting with it, sitting with the discomfort. So part of the trust is learning to sit with discomfort, right? Write it down if that's new for you. Part of trusting yourself is learning to sit with the discomfort of your own truth, right? Because what we want most as humans, actually, I'm going to stop sharing for a second and go back here. Let's see, hold on. I lost myself. I lost my live here. Okay, great. So, like what happens here is, we get I just want to like take the slides down for a second. I'll put them back up in a moment. But what happens is that we get, it's like we get uncomfortable with our own truths. And we have all of these mechanisms, coping mechanisms that have sprouted up over time, coping mechanisms to help us feel safe and to help us survive, right? Based on old experiences that we've had. This is some mindset work. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I'll give a couple pieces here. That when we have a destabilizing experience as a child, right? Because our mindsets get set around the age of 7. What happens is that then we start to try to make sense of the world, and then we go ahead and we do, right, in a very unconscious way of like taking on other people's pain, taking responsibility for things that have gone wrong that have nothing to do with us, telling ourselves that we're wrong, not doing it right, that we're alone, unsupported, not enough. Any of those resonate? And so we might not be able to understand like the whole truth of whatever that initial destabilizing experience was, but and that's okay. We don't necessarily have to right now, but we have created a whole world and web of truths, right? And so about like what we think is true, what we're experiencing as true throughout our lives, the story we're telling ourselves. And the stories that we tell ourselves, right, all the ones I was talking about, those limiting beliefs, right, about like not being enough, being all alone, not being supported, the world being a hopeless mess, which sometimes it certainly feels that way, not being smart enough, whatever it is, that, or not being able to trust. That's a big one for a lot of us. That we actually, once we start to grow and stretch, we're going to be confronted with all of these fears. And so part of this leap from, I'll go back to the slide in a sec, from listen to trust is being able to like sit in our own discomfort of our truths. Does that make sense? I know it's a little heavy here. It's a little meta, but because of those coping mechanisms, we've developed all these ways in which we want to protect ourselves from pain, what I call the triple P, perceived potential pain. And so when we go to grow and stretch, there's going to be parts of us, and I really, believe that this is the ego. Some people are really harsh on the ego, and they're like, oh, like the ego is really like fucking me up here. And I actually believe that in a lot of ways, the ego is just trying to protect. It's like almost sort of like this. Sometimes I just feel like I'll relate to it in different ways, and sometimes it just takes up a lot of space, but sometimes I feel it's a bit like the mama bear, right? But it's just like that, sort of like mama lion, just like, no, right? Sort of, it's really loud and it's fierce and it's just like, and just sort of like smacks anything out of the way that could potentially cause us pain. Right? So when we start to listen to ourselves, to our inner guidance, and then we deign to trust ourselves, we deign to like go like, whoa, all right, I'm getting this information. I need to make a big shift, right? A big change. And then we want to retreat into, we want to get away from it. We want to go to confusion. That's a really popular retreat, right? Just like, oh, well, I'm not sure what to do. it's like that ego, that mama bear part of us, that mama lion is just like, no, right? And we just want, that's how we go back into that ask, listen. It's like, that's too difficult. That's too painful. That's too dangerous, right? And so then we have to go back. And then we go, that's how we get stuck in that cycle, which is much safer, the ask, listen. I mean, it's pain. It also has its own level of pain, but we usually know how to navigate it. All right, I'm laying down some stuff here. Let me know if you have questions, right? Anytime. So let me go back here to our sweet little slides. Hold on. Okay. So this, you've got maybe a little bit of a sense here of like the leap from listen to trust, and notice where you, like, is this where you felt stuck in listening to yourself, right? I know I'm using the word listen and trust and ask a lot here, but bear with me. When you're, when you've tried to source ask your biggest questions and source those biggest answers, right, about your life. And maybe, maybe you're noticing now that you've been stuck in this ask, listen loop, and it's felt too scary to make this leap to trust, right? Because I just had someone say to me the other day, one of my clients, hold on, I'm going to actually just quote here because it was so good. She said, if I'm honest about what I want, then I have to do it. So golden. Right? If I'm honest about what I want, then I have to do it. Right? So it's like if we listen and we receive that information and we go, oh, dang, I need to make a big shift. And that feels like that feels really big right now. And I'm not sure I have the capacity, or I'm not sure what that's going to mean, or I don't know what it's going to look like. And I need to know what it's going to look like before I make the leap, right? That's super popular too. We all have, it's like human condition. Like we're so fascinating because we're all so different, yet we all have a lot of the like same places that we retreat to when we feel scared. And when we know that there's a big change, we're calling one in, is we'll retreat to confusion. We'll retreat to, we'll retreat to this pattern then of distracting ourselves, right? Of being too busy. So there's a lot of ways in which we have learned to protect ourselves from trusting ourselves. Because if you see you have to make a big change and you know that you're calling one in and it feels scary, and then all your mama bear ego comes out and wants to protect you, what we start to learn is that, oh, I got that information and I can't do it. Right? Like, I don't think I can trust it because I don't feel safe, right? We retreat to lack of safety. We retreat to like, oh, maybe it's wrong. Maybe that's the wrong decision. Maybe I'll end up making the wrong decision and I'll end up in the wrong place, right? This whole like idea of right and wrong can be very tricky and very sabotaging. Or we retreat to the place of like, I need to know what the mystery is before I take the leap into it. All right, so hopefully you've had some insight there into like what that, where you are on this inner guidance flow. There's one more step. You can see it. It's sort of this lovely acid electric yellow down here. And that's act, right? So it's ask, listen, trust, act. Alta. Ask, listen, trust, act. Yeah. Anyway, the act part here is like, woo! That's really a step sometimes, right? Like, so you already thought maybe you're making that big leap between listen and trust, and now you've got act. And so acting is where you have asked, you've listened, you've received some information, you are having feelings about it, right? Feelings are like all the sensations, right? That like happen when you have an experience, right? Real or imagined. And then emotions are like then all the thoughts you're having about those feelings. So you might be having emotions, a deep emotional experience when you consider making that leap from listen to trusting that information that you get, right? And say like, wow, I've received this. And maybe you've received the same information over and over, that same message, that same hit, that same inclination, that same impulse over and over and over again when you've really asked and you've really, sometimes we really need to like slow down and make space. I'll talk more about slowing down in a minute. In order to really ask intentionally, to listen intentionally, and then to begin to trust. And so once you've like started to work on that flow there and breaking out of the ask, listen cycle, your next step is to act. And that doesn't mean like if you've gotten a big hit, like, oh, I got to make a big change, that the act part needs to be, I make the big change tomorrow, today, all at once. No, not at all. The acting can come from, let me say it a different way. The acting can be much smaller, right? The acting can be first in an acknowledgement of like, whoa, I've received this information. I'm going to start to lean into trust, right? So acting can be internal. Acting is not always external. There can absolutely be an aspect of external to it, but it can be internal. In fact, it must be both. It must be internal and external. And our world, our programming, our overculture teaches us that acting is only external. And I really, really invite you to see all the ways in which you can act internally, right? So part of your homework is going to be to make some room to do some asking, or to look where you have been doing asking, to see like what's been the quality of your listening. Have you been stuck in the flow, in the cycle, the ask, listen cycle? And what are the messages, the impulses that you've been receiving, right, as you've been asking? And then especially the ones that have like, that keep coming up, right? And the answers that keep coming up for you and that you keep feeling, and that especially the ones that you're like, oh, I don't know about that. That makes me feel like I'm gonna puke, right? Or like, oh, like I'm gonna have a heart attack, or I'm gonna like fall down in a ditch and die. Right? Look at those. Those are probably your growing edge. Those are some edgy places for you energetically that are letting you know that that's a way to break out of the cycle. To start looking at the trust, like, ooh, what would it look like to trust myself? We're going to go a little bit more into trust in a moment, with a couple of prompts that I want you to just do a little writing about, and do some homework on your own time, hopefully, over the next couple days. And then the acting, right? So that's like, the acting can be like reviewing this process. And it can also be like, ooh, what's coming up for me as, as I'm leaning into the trust, like, how am I feeling about that, right? What's my relationship to trust, which is the next question I'm going to ask in a moment. And then starting to like soften and forgive yourself. Notice perhaps even when you started to not trust yourself, right? To look at the root, like, when's the first time you remember having an impulse or doing something that felt really like true and good for you? It's going to probably be back in your childhood. I really invite you to go back, into around age like 6, 7, 8, or you could be a little earlier or a little later, but see if you can go back there if that feels safe for you. And write down and really notice, right? Like that, where that comes from. And the acting can, be some of that writing down and that reflection. And then the acting can be like, all right, with this message that I've received, that I'm leaning into trusting and looking at my relationship to trust, and this acting, like, what, like, you can even just start by making a list, right? Like, I've got a moon in Virgo. I love a good list. It can be about like, ooh, what do I need? Like, what could some steps be, right? So even though it might feel like, whoa, I need to make this whole big change now, and that's totally overwhelming and way over my edge, and I'm going to shut down and go back to a coping mechanism of confusion, or blaming other people, or drinking, or overeating, or overexercising, or overachieving, or being too busy, or tuning out, or numbing out, whatever it is. Or, dissociating from my emotions. That's a fun one too. So you can make a list of what are some action steps, some small ones, right? And then, just notice how like these little small steps it's, one of my first teachers and mentors, J. Love Calderon, she would always say, it's little by little, then all of a sudden. So I want you to start to track the little by little. What are the small actions that will start to get you towards this, this bigger vision, right? Even if you're like, oh, I'm not exactly sure what the bigger vision is, like I can just see the next step of it, right? I know I maybe need to like get out of the situation that I'm in, right? And I mean, obviously if that's like a dangerous, violent situation, then like get out, take care of you and actually get out of that situation and get yourself to a safe place so that you can do more reflection and do more of this inner work. But if it's not like an imminent danger situation, you can start to look at like, what are the small actions that are going to start to like orient me towards what I really want, right? How I really want to feel. All right. Woo! How you feeling about that, kids? When I first learned this framework, and I use this all the time still, it really did open up a lot for me. So I want to just, I started to actually naturally, because I get too excited here. I want to talk about your relationship to trust. And that's where, I just sort of, over the last 5 minutes, I sort of outlined some homework for you. So you can, rewind 5 minutes if you need to do a little review on that again and get those prompts. But I want to give you another prompt here about your relationship to trust. And what I want to, what I want you to tune into here, and I started to get into it, is I want you to look at your relationship to trust. I want you to, and maybe you already started to spark this from my questions just a few moments ago, like what's coming up for you as you've been looking at this over our time together already today? Right? What is that relationship to trust? What does that look like for you? What has that what do you notice about how you trust or don't trust yourself? What do you notice when you think about trusting yourself, right? And that could be feelings, images, anything that comes up for you, right? You might be like, oh, I can't trust. Maybe it's trusting yourself. Maybe you're like, no, I do trust myself. I don't trust others, or I don't trust the universe, right? I want you to sort of tune into that a little bit here. Okay, just like take a moment. This can be part of your homework as well, to just tune into your relationship to trust. Right? And part of the work around trusting yourself and this whole inner guidance flow is what you're really looking at is, okay, I'm asking for clarity or guidance, or, how am I, what is best for me, or what's the right decision, or how can I move forward? And or whatever the big questions are that you're asking yourself. And whether they feel super articulated or not, you might just have question marks over your head. But what you're really doing as we're exploring this relationship to trust is exploring your relationship to what you want, right? To your own desire, right? And so your own, what I call wants, needs, and desires. And can you trust yourself to ask for them, to honor them, to acknowledge them even? Do you feel safe in wanting what you want, right? Do you, what's your relationship to expressing your own needs, right? To expressing your own desires. This is what I want you to explore. Could be taking a moment right now. What is your relationship to your own needs, wants, and desires? When you need to express, whether it's like what my girlfriend says, from the boardroom to the bedroom, right? It's like, where is that, excuse me, where is that, where does that fall for you, right? Like, how does that feel for you when you think about your wants, needs, and desires and how you express them? Does it feel safe? Does it feel unsafe? Does it feel other people's needs, wants, and desires are more important than yours? Why is that? Right? If that's true for you, and it's true for a lot of us people pleasers out here, um, or us do-gooders or what have you, for whatever reason that we have this pattern, and we all have different ways, and I help people unpack this all the time. But given our short amount of time together today, we're not going to unpack this all the way, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that in a few moments, right? To do some deeper work. But I want you to really spend some time and understand your relationship to your own wants, needs, and desires, because this is intrinsically linked to your relationship to trust. Okay? And so they can co-evolve together. So I know I've introduced a lot here, right? So you've got your inner guidance flow, right? Like, what did you learn about your flow? Right? Like, what did you, sorry, just um, I, I guess just a little inside joke there, with myself about flow and how many times can I say flow in an hour-long period, a lot. And what's your relationship to trust, right? Like, what did you see here about how you trust? So we're going to just take a moment here, and we're going to just do a quick grounding exercise. Just, a few moments. I want you to put your feet flat on the floor, eyes closed, spine straight. Take some nice deep, slow breaths. Whatever's been percolating inside of you, right? If your mind is wandering and just like, this, just like, I want you to take some nice deep breaths. I want you to imagine. Let's take a couple deep breaths. Good. Imagine yourself as a magnet. And all of bits of yourself are scattered about in the universe like little iron filings. Thoughts, communications, things that are coming up just from our time together today. Memories, conversations, imagined and past and real, and all of it. And just bring them all back into you. Draw those iron filings of your soul back to you. Just reel them in. Bring them all back to your body. Hold yourself as a sovereign being, because you are. Good. Take a nice deep breath. And visualize the circumference of your abdomen as a tree trunk with thick bark. And on your next exhale, you're going to drop and extend and stretch that tree trunk all the way down through your seat, through the layers of building and city, all the way down to the center of the planet. You're going to ask Mother Earth to receive your grounding. And you're going to stretch that tree trunk all the way down. And you are going to wrap it around the molten iron crystal core of the planet, which is several miles high and wide. Wrap it around 3 times, pull snugly. You're going to draw that earth energy back up this tree trunk, right? Like sipping a milkshake through a straw, all the way up through the layers of earth. The crusted mantle layers, the stone, sticks, and bones of our ancestors, the layers of city, the layers of building, all the way back up to your seat. Give yourself, your sovereign self, permission to receive this vital, alive, focused earth energy. Breathe it in, allow it to fill you, rising and filling you, traveling up your central channel, all the way up. Setting the intention is cleansing, clearing, and balancing your chakras, your energetic centers. Moving up the midline of your body. And cascading out your crown chakra, the crown of your head, the place where you meet the universe. in a place of deep intuition and connection, and see this earth energy cascading out, beautiful golden light out and around you like a fountain, several feet in diameter around you, cascading down, gently curling below your feet and letting it run. Good. This is a grounding technique, an energetic grounding technique connecting you to the earth. This is a form of protection and sovereignty, and allowing your body and your mind to slow down. We need to slow down in order to speed up. We cannot make our biggest life decisions and shifts from a place of speed and hustle. I know you have been taught otherwise, but just see how well that's been working for you, because maybe you're getting a lot done, but you feel burnt out. You need to slow down. Your body needs time. All of our bodies at this time on the planet need time to assimilate and process all of this energy running through us. You can gently open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes. You can just take a moment to take any notes about how you're feeling, any sensations you're having. Right? Any good sensations you're having. Focusing on good sensations in your body can really encourage nice motivation, a little motivation spurt in the brain there. It's a great thing to do, right? When you first wake up, run your hands over your body, just like any good sensations, and just allow that to create a little motivation for you. Okay, good. So I'm going to give you an opportunity here to do a little bit deeper work. I'm going to take a few minutes and then I'll answer any questions that have come up here. And first, I want to let you know that this, the work that we've done together today, like, all the places where I talked about like mindset and emotions and trust and inner guidance and all the things, and where some and the roots of how you trust yourself or don't trust yourself, and beginning to look at that, like all of that, right? We're just beginning to peel the layers back there, right? And there is a way for you to do deeper work. I would be honored to do it with you. And this is why I created, in addition to my one-on-one coaching that I've been doing for many, many years, I have a really sweet group program. It's part digital, it's part live. I'll give you the details here, but it's called Clear, a healing journey to making your biggest life decisions. It's a really highly cultivated guidance in the areas of personal power, mindset work, energy work, emotional health. I keep adding, I keep growing the curriculum. And there's a ton, that I keep diving deeper into, right? So the course has been running for 1 year, and just in the past few months, I've added, that's the word I'm looking for. I've added a couple of new lessons and new exercises to really help folks like dive deeper into their own growth path, their own growth journey, their own personal experience, right? So it's an ever evolving course where I'm continuing to add and grow to it, and then give people support and working more deeply on their own growth areas, right? And like their own big life changes. So there's currently 3 modules, and you can go at your own pace, or you can follow my 12-week prompted flow. There are daily meditations that I have folks work with. So there's a daily practice with 3 modules. There's audio video trainings. There's journaling prompts. There's worksheets and resources. And there's ritual and altar work, right? So all of that in these, in the guided like 12-week flow, or you can go at your own pace and take more time. I'll tell you like sort of the space and time that you have to do the work in a minute here. But you get really solid guidance from me to work through the lessons and the modules at a pace that and a momentum that can really create a lot of shift I've had some amazing outcomes with the students. And we continue to just like blow open their dreams and what they think is possible for themselves, and how their dream jobs and moving from the city up to the Pacific Northwest to their dream homes, or new relationships, or ending old relationships that no longer serve. There's so much change that is cultivated in this work. So you get the digital part here, right, in the 3 modules. And then there's a live component. And so every 2 weeks, there's a live group session. The replays are always available. So you can submit questions beforehand if you can't make the lives. Currently, the lives are on Sundays at 9:30. Every other Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. I may change that up in the future. For now, every time I do a survey, that still ends up being a great time for folks. These are very intimate gatherings, right? So, there's usually just like a handful or 2 of people. And if you're really lucky, you're just like, sometimes every once in a while, I've had just 1 or 2 people show up on the live Q&A. It just depends on people's schedules. And you just get me for for the whole hour. So it's a really, beautiful way to get intimate support where I dive right in with you to whatever's going on in your life. So you get the coursework, the biweekly live Q&As, access to a community. So there's a Facebook group. You don't have to be in the Facebook group. It might not always be on Facebook. I might move it to another platform. I'll probably do that next year in 2020. And but for right now, there's a really sweet community where we go where folks post questions and we go in depth into like what's happening for them. And I give a lot of really specific curated guidance. It's not crucial that you use Facebook, but you can also, even just like if you don't like Facebook, you can just make one of those little like invisible profiles and just use it to access the group, right? If you just want to be in that. And then there are bonuses. There's beautiful altar work that's in the bonuses. There's additional meditations that are bonuses. I'm adding to the bonuses all the time. Also, this is accessible anytime and anywhere, right? All you really need is the internet, and all the lessons are downloadable. There's an audio as well as like slides in the video, but the audio is also available. And so you can download all of it and take it with you wherever you're going in the world, and listen to it and do the work. And all the worksheets, there's downloadable worksheets, right? You can see this little snapshot here of like a little worksheet and what it looks like, and you can download all that work. So, it really is available to you, and you get this forever. Yeah, forever. So as long as the course, what I mean by forever is as long as the course is up and running, and I don't have any plans on taking it down anytime soon. It's only 1 year old, right? So it's just a baby. I'm still offering, and I think I'm going to do this just for a few more months, actually. The next time I launch, I think that'll be the last time that I offer this unlimited access to all of this, right? So that means every 2 weeks, you want to tune in and get guidance from me. I am your coach. I am here for you. Moving forward, I think it'll just be 1 year access. So if you're like, ooh, I want unlimited access, that feels so important to me. I want to take my time. I want to go back and, some people go and do the whole course over again, just like for refreshes. So it's really, when I say it's accessible and that there's a lot of room, yet there's a lot of structure and guidance, like I'm serious. So I'm going to read a couple of quotes in a minute to so you get a sense of what some of my beloved students have experienced here. But I want to let you know that right now you can do this for 2 payments, right? You can join the course, have all of this forever, and it's 2 payments of $333, right? So that's a savings of at least $222, because normally when I do a launch and I do a public open launch, it's a payment of $888 or 3 payments of $333, right? And so there's a few other times that I open up publicly, but for you right now, coming off of this, training and, doing some work with me, it's going to be 2 payments of $333. So 2 monthly payments, and then I'm yours. And this work is yours, right? So all the way back, everything that's yours is all the digital work, personal power, mindset work, energy work, deep emotional work to really work with your emotions in a more coherent and skillful way. And then all the daily meditations, the audio video trainings, the journaling prompts, the worksheets, the resources, the rituals, the altar work, the bonuses, the live Q&As, all of that is 2 payments of $333. And so just real quick, what Cara, beautiful Cara, says after doing this work, I'm finally giving myself permission to really shape my own path, to let what needs to rise to the surface truly manifest instead of my normal inclination to just jump for whatever pops up first. Right? Anyone feeling that? I'm holding space for myself, committing to myself in an entirely new way. Part of that has been an incredible resurgence of faith in my true self to survive all the fear and doubt and confusion and come out even brighter and more full of life on the other side. I feel so much more confident in being able to trust myself now as I move forward. And Cara left totally burnout, draining work that was not serving her anymore. And even though it was work that was really meaningful to her, she was burnt out and it was time to go, right? And that can be the hardest work, especially for those of us who do work that is meaningful, but we know that it's actually sucking our life force. For whatever, if it's like the organizational issues, whatever it is, bad managers, right? It might not be through any fault of yours, but you got to take some responsibility for how you spend your energy. And she moved to a new city and, building a new beautiful community and found a really beautiful dream job that is way more aligned with the life that she really wants to live. So I'm so super proud of Cara. And then Martha says, I now have a clear vision. That about sums it up. I felt quite aimless when I started the course, but through the work, I've gotten in touch with my true passions and values. As I move forward, I'm able to slow down, really check in with myself. With myself, if I'm moving towards my vision or going on a people-pleasing detour. Not only was my inner truth revealed to me, but through this process, I'm rebuilding my intuition, learning how to hear myself again. The course has changed my life. I'm confident that I can move towards my big vision with clarity. And the best part, now I have the tools to actually enjoy my journey. So proud. And those are just 2 of many, many, many testimonials that have come through. You can scroll down on the page where you're watching this video right now and see a bunch more. I'm going to stop sharing here and go back. Hi. And, so I'm going to just take a second here and see if there are any questions that have come through. I'm having a little bit funky internet right now, so it's just the page where I see the chat is just sort of spinning and refreshing, so I'm not sure. So apologies if you've written anything that I'm not addressing. But what I will say is that, besides like the going down and looking at the different testimonials of folks who have worked with me and who've done this work. And you can sign up, this is only going to be up for a couple of days, right? So you can go back and watch the replay. It was at about 40 minutes in that I gave the homework, right? So you can go to about 40 minutes and or it might be a little bit because we started a couple minutes late. So, but right around that time, about 40 minutes in is when I gave the homework. This replay and then this offer is only up, right? So for the 2 payments of $333 is only up for a couple more days. And that's just like a nudge, right? From me to you. That like, if you're feeling pulled, if you're feeling the call, if you know that like you're stuck in that ask, listen cycle, or there's some big stuff around like trusting yourself or not feeling like you can trust the universe, right? Or that you can like, make a big change and be safe, right? Like all that, like we can do this work together. I can absolutely support you in unpacking that and healing, like you healing you, right? Like I don't heal anyone. But I do healing work, and I really hold space for folks to do that work for themselves, right? That's the most important. And you got that in the, in the testimonials that I read. And you can also see some FAQs below, right? If you scroll down on the video, where you're watching, right? So where I answer questions like, how much time do I need to set aside for the course? I do offer a 30-day guarantee. So if you do the work for 30 days and it just like is not serving you, that's okay. You can actually send me a note and send me your homework and the homework that you've done for the first module, and you can get you can get a refund. So I do offer that, and you can read all the rest of the any of the FAQs down here, and if there's any other question that you have, I want you to use the little chat. There's a little chat icon at the bottom right of the page, and chat me up. Ask me any questions, okay? I'm here for you. I'm gonna, I'll be checking my, I'll absolutely have access to my phone and any emails that come through if you have any questions, or you'll get a follow-up email from me with some homework and with a reminder about this offer. And you can also just hit reply, and we'll be in contact. It would be my honor to support you in this work. I've been doing this work for many years. I've helped a lot of folks. I've supported a lot of folks in supporting themselves. And this is deep work, right? So this isn't just like a quick fix. And if that's what you're looking for, that's okay. This probably isn't the work for you, and that's all right. And I do hope that you got a lot out of this, our time together today, and that you absolutely find the support that you're looking for. If you're looking for a deeper dive into yourself, into the patterns of your life and breaking out of the ones that no longer serve you, and learning how to be with yourself in a more loving, compassionate, rigorously honest and authentic, meaningful way, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here to help you do, right? Because the world needs us. The world needs us to trust ourselves so that we know how to trust each other. Right? That's what the world needs. That's part of what the world needs. When we heal, the earth heals, right? So there's a way bigger picture that we're all playing for here, that I'm playing for here in my support of you. All right, beloveds. I have a little spinny thing up on my chat. So I'll check back later and see if anything was coming through that I didn't get to. And enjoy your time over the next few days working, doing this work, looking at, what's coming up for you. And I would love to support you. And if you have any questions, go ahead. And there are lots of ways to get me with the chat icon or hitting reply on any of the emails that you get from me. I'd love to support you. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for taking some time out for you today. I really appreciate it, and I'm so honored to be able to support you. Have a good one.